Yeah, hi everyone. Welcome to my 4th live stream for now. Nice to see that there are already some people watching. Hi David. Well, yeah, today I'm going to create a little wooden box with a tiny Frankenstein style knife switch, which is able to switch some electrical devices of any kind with a little 9-volt battery inside. Before this, as usual, I'm streaming on Twitch and YouTube simultaneously, and for some reason there's a bit of a delay in the multi-chat. But I hope I will see all your messages, and feel free to leave comments and questions, and I will answer them. Probably, as usual, very fitting track. But probably, as usual, I'm switching between working and just letting the music play and then taking a pause and talk a bit, because yeah, multitasking is hard. On that note, I want to thank all of my music artists who were so kind to let me play their music. So special thanks to Billy Rubin, Ariel my friend, Reptile Juice and Maurice Trench. And also I want to give a shout out to Hiload. It's another friend of mine who helped me to set up all this studio equipment and software stuff in my workshop, so that was also a lot of help. Well, now for this little project for today. As usual, it's one of the miniatures I'm making once a month for my Patreon supporters, and quite so often it has something to do with something from a movie, like replicating a prop or something. But of course there is no wooden power switch box in the movie. Nevertheless, this project was still inspired by a little part from the actual movie. So maybe I want to start by tell you how this idea came, and well, so what I have here is a piece of the office set. It's one of the walls from that set, like the entrance piece with the door, and yeah, nothing special, just one out of 8 wall pieces. But the thing is, when our human character enters the scene, the room is dark and he switches on the lights first, and there's a nice little close-up of his finger moving the switch. And of course I didn't want to leave it as a boring, usual switch. I wanted to give it a bit of a vintage steampunk vibe as well. So what I ended up using is, I also built, let's see if it's in frame, like here, a tiny knife switch which moves nicely up and down, like this. Oh, it came loose, it seems. Yeah, well, a lot of animations were done in this set, so probably the animator bumped into it. But yeah, it can be moved up and down, and the little handle actually touches 2 contacts. And so yeah, visually it makes complete sense. But when building this, I thought maybe it would be really cool to try making an actual functional switch that way. Because usually when you incorporate electronics and switches in your projects, you're just buying some properly working off-the-shelf switch and then just adding a bit of nice housing around it, or adding a nice wooden button to it or something. But usually it's never the actual electronic switch you're making. So as a kind of challenge, I wanted to design a switch which actually also switches the current. This little project, it involves 2 contacts with a bit of voltage across, and the little brass handle actually touches those switches and completes the circuit that way. So yeah, a bit of background story to put it in context with the rest of the movie and stuff. And the switch part is brass and steel parts as usual, but just the switch is a bit of a strange artifact, so yeah, I decided to build a nice casing around it to house a battery, and with a little plug socket on top, where it's possible to add some lamps and other devices. Today I'm only going to build the base socket and test it basically, but probably in future months there will be some add-ons to plug into this base, yeah. And for the wooden parts, I'm using these laser cut parts. I designed them on the computer and ordered them. And this saves a lot of work and looks really nice, and it's also possible to add some engraving with the laser. So yeah, it's very easy to design some nice parts that way. What you saw me do in the first step, like removing this foil on the end, let me quickly switch to another camera. Just a second. So yeah, these pieces always come with these burn marks from the laser on the backside. And if you don't want this, it's possible to order them with this special tape on the backside, which takes the burn marks, and if you peel it off, you have very nice, clean wood under the surface there, like this. So yeah, this is kind of the boring first step, but yeah, now we have some really nice pieces here. What else? Yeah, sometimes there are tiny pieces which get stuck into the holes, so I have to push those out. Like here, yeah, like here for example, in this tiny piece. It's not sure if it's visible here. Maybe I should zoom in a bit. Yeah, these little internal pieces. Like this. Okay. Yeah, so what else? Yeah, regarding the assembly of these wooden parts, of course usually you would just glue them together, but this takes a while because you always have to wait until the glue dries, and also it doesn't look very special or anything. So yeah, I also want to use actual screws on the wood parts, and from past experience I know it's actually quite possible to cut tiny threads in wood and have it sufficiently connected that way. So I'm actually going to cut a thread into this prepared holes and later screw in a normal metal screw. And of course you can't tighten them crazy hard or anything, but it works and it's a sufficient connection. And yeah, I'm going to cut the threads before I'm staining the pieces in a darker color. It turned out it works better that way. So yeah, as the wood is really soft, I'm using the easy way of cutting threads with the manual drill. Just going in really quickly, out, etc. Yeah, so I'm going to do this, and in the next step I'm going to stain the pieces in nice dark colors. So yeah, enough for talking for now. Let's do some things.
attention. After a few breaths, it has your attention. Your head rises, the connection is born. We acknowledge the introduction is sometimes enough to understand the value of personal experience. There are such pieces of art that change lives permanently. It may be a person, A, B, B1, R2D2, essential need.
I don't dream. On a faraway island is where I would live with all of my friends, not including Steve, because he said he'd rather stay tucked in his home. I'll see you around, Steve, so long. Anyway, on my island there will be much fun. There will be no wars, nothing to be won, and nothing to work for, just playing so free. When things you would grow on a tree. My faraway island is open to all. Animals, mandibles, and also people. As long as they're nice and not hurting no one, together we'll have so much fun. On my faraway island you are welcome to get you up here, I'll give you a clue. Take the first road you have never been to. No one will search for you. Any animal and some insects can come live here with me. Whether they fly or swim in the sea, or simply walk step by step on the ground, like a bear or a cat or a hound, or a tiger or a frog or a chimpanzee, or a kangaroo, or a bee. Oh wait, bees, they don't walk, they fly high in the air, even though they are welcome as well. Open your eyes, man, says the seal. I come close, he goes. He's shy to the touch, though I've never been there and I never will. I already miss it so much. So I'm sitting on my bed thinking what to do. Maybe I'll write another shampoo, or maybe I'll pick up the phone and say to Steve, can I come be tucked with you?
Okay, I'm quickly cleaning my hands and the brush. Be right back. So yeah, I used normal water stain to color the pieces in a nice dark color. I have different kinds of colors, and after trying different combinations I decided to use this greenish oak color. for the pieces which will show in the holes here, and a nice dark walnut color for most of the box. The thing is, those are now still wet, and the colors will change quite a bit after it's dry. And usually I also apply 2 layers to give it a bit of a stronger color, and of course this takes time for drying, etc. So for this video I have already prepared a set of dry pieces, and these look like this. And yeah, if you compare the colors, that's not sure if it shows on camera, but those are quite a bit darker, but also not that evenly. And if it's dry, then yeah, we get this really nice even colors. So yeah, we're going to work with these ones for now. Just assume the other ones dried and were coated another time and dried again, etc. Yeah. Yeah, so regarding the questions, yeah, you can cut threads in this plywood. It's just normal plywood. I use 2mm ones, and I think it has 3 layers. Yeah, if it's a nice high quality plywood, it's hard enough for thread cutting. Yeah, one nice thing about the laser cutting, besides the engraving of course, is that the laser doesn't leave any burrs. Like if you would mill this with a CNC mill, then you would get quite rough edges around the wooden pieces and would need to sand them and all. So yeah, that's really nice. We can just take the pieces as they are, and they have really nice, slightly darkened edges. Yeah, I really like laser cutting things, it's just so convenient. So let me think what's next. Yada yada yada. Yeah, maybe leave the wood parts for now, because those will be needed for the assembly later. Oops. Maybe it's a good idea to continue with the metal parts. So let me quickly show you. So this was the box basically with all the laser parts, how I designed them in CAD, and in the center kind of a mock-up of the assembly you can expect with these. And yeah, on the front side in the center is a little switch, and that will be this piece here. It's only constructed in 2D, so it's not a 3D model or everything. I'm still learning 3D modeling, and it's not necessary for everything. So these are the metal pieces, and there will be a bit of bending and screwing again. So yeah, let me start by taking out the parts. So I have another laser cut piece of brass here. Let me quickly zoom in on that. Oh, it's not going further than this, so it has to do for now. Let me focus here. So maybe I can navigate. Oh, it's already in frame. So these 2 tiny pieces will be kind of the knives of the switch, where the contact will be engaged between these 2, and in the slit there's going a second piece. And let's see, this piece here, wrong direction, like this. This border piece here, that will be the frame, and we're going to bend up those little latches, and those will be the hinges for the main switch part. There will be a piece of round rod between these 2 parts, And on the round rod there's going to be here, this piece, and it's going to bend here and here, so it makes a right angled U shape, which will be the main switch, and the contact will be engaged around here and there. And on the central hole we will later screw a little handle which we're going to hand turn. And yeah, all the pieces you're seeing around it are a little spoiler for future planned projects, so we're going to ignore those for now. Yeah, on the laser metal pieces, the laser is like 0.05 millimeters in diameter, so you can get really fine details. It's even possible to make gears that way, so that's really helpful. The only downside is on the metal parts, the edges of the part are kind of rough. So yeah, let me quickly check something, because I'm not sure if I'm receiving all the comments. The multi-chat is kind of laggy. So I'm switching around between. Yeah, functional gears, but it requires a lot of sanding edges so they run smoothly. So it's kind of a workaround because I don't have proper gear cutters and stuff. It kind of works. So yeah, I'm using a little toothpick to pop out the pieces. So one frame. The pieces are usually attached with tiny pieces of metal which is left, and sometimes it's not that easy to get it out. Zack. Okay, so those are the brass pieces, and there will also be a back plate. If we quickly switch back to the sketch, like something behind the frame, behind the wood, which holds everything together and also holds these tiny switches. And for this I have used some steel because I also wanted to try out laser cutting steel. It's a bit of a cheaper and stronger material, so it definitely has its uses. But a problem is, of course, the laser heats up the metal and kind of evaporates it, and that leads to, what's the English name, like edge hardening. Like it's a steel which can be hardened, and the laser heats it up very strongly locally, and then the heat dissipates into the rest of the metal, so it's cooling down very quickly again, and that's basically what hardens the edges of all these laser cut pieces. And that's annoying, because the pieces are kind of harder than my thread cutters and files, for example, so not very easy to work with them. But luckily it's possible to make metal soft again, and what I did for this is put it in an oven. I have a little heat treating oven, and it goes up to like 800 degrees or something. It's not necessary to go that high, of course, but just cooking the metal for some time at a couple of 100 degrees, and then letting it cool down very, very slowly, and then it's soft again and can be treated very easily. The only problem is after that heat treatment, the pieces look like this, like completely black. You don't see it now. Completely black, covered in oxide and stuff. Let me quickly zoom in on that. Yeah, you can see it's not that nice that way. And yeah, so in the first step I have to polish all the things off again. Here I have already polished for comparison. It's quite a difference between the pieces. So yeah, conclusion: can be a bit annoying to work with laser cut steel parts if you have to do some further processing where you need soft metal. So yeah, I'm doing the polishing on that part, and then I'm going to cut 4 tiny threads into the corner. So yeah, let's do this. See you there.
There is no easy way. No matter what I do, somebody gets hurt. Would you stop thinking about whatever one wants? Stop thinking about what I want. What you want, your parents want. What do you want? What do you want?
I never knew what it meant to have a mental illness. Until I read the signs on the wall. We should talk about mental health. 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 I never knew what it meant to have a mental illness until I went to the club and I heard
What do you want?
What do you want?
nature, there's a find that blows every scientist's mind. It's a puzzle, nonetheless, necessary for the world to progress. First you're little, then you're not, like a star from a tiny dot. First connected, then it's cut. We like to breathe and run and giggle though. We're not afraid of growing old. There's a time and a place for us to be. We're not afraid of getting cold. It's a nature symphony. As a tiger makes a roar, and then ain't that loud anymore. As the cheetahs never last, and then no longer can it run as fast. We're becoming slow as well, and quieter in parallel. Nonetheless we laugh about. We're afraid of war and diseases, but we're not afraid of growing old. There's a time and a place for us to be. We're not afraid of getting cold. It's a nature symphony. Little spider turns into a bigger spider. Takes off its skin and its grown. Take a look at my skin, I am no longer there. An empty shell, an empty hole. Little spider turns into a bigger spider. Takes off its skin and its grown. Take a look at my skin, I am no longer there. An empty shell, an empty hole. You turn around when you hear a roar, coming from the depth of your drawer. Deep inside to your surprise, are the cheetah and tiger from before. Check this out, say successively. I have sound and I have velocity. Don't edges yet, far ahead. And of being young too, we're not afraid. We're not afraid of growing old. There's a time and a place for us to be. We're not afraid of getting cold. It's a nature symphony. We're not afraid of growing old. There's a time and a place for us to be. We're not afraid of getting cold. It's a nature symphony. Little spider turns into a bigger spider. Takes off its skin and its grown. Take a look at my skin, I am no longer there. An empty shell, an empty hole. Little spider turns into a bigger spider. Takes off its skin and its grown. Take a look at my skin, I am no longer there. An empty shell, an empty hole. Little spider turns into a bigger spider.
Okay, so steel piece finished. Yeah, I usually just remove the oxide with a very hard polishing wheel. You saw it was quite quick. But of course it would be very nice to have a chemical way to do it, because then you could all just drop in the whole batch. Yeah, the thing is, the only acid I have is like citric acid, and it doesn't do much. It's not that strong. Can you recommend anything? I'm open for suggestions how to remove oxide layers faster. But yeah, sometimes I tried it with the citric acid I have, but it only removes like the black particles which are already very easy to remove, and the stuff which is like burned in, it still remains on the surface, and I have to polish it after the acid as well. So I'm not sure how to do this properly. I'm working the first time with this baked steel parts. I don't know, but in this case they also don't need to be crazy nice or anything, because it's not a visible piece, it's only a functional piece in that contraption. But yeah, there will be more steel parts, and especially there are some I want to polish really shiny, and then use some heat to make them this nice bluish color. And for this it will be very annoying, of course, but it's annoying anyway, because the sheet metal I get from the laser cutting company, it also is sanded and has scratches on it, so making it really shiny is a lot of work anyways. Yeah, I'm unhappy with all my fingerprints on it, so I'm going over it real quickly again. Where are we? Here. Wrong camera. Yeah, you can see something now. Okay, now for this brass pieces. As I said, 2 of them need to be bent, and when I did this the first time, it just broke off, and I was very concerned that maybe this kind of alloy just is not good for bending and stuff like this, and it definitely isn't, because it's made for machining. It's like the usual machining brass. But I was able to make the bending work better, also by heating it up for once to a higher, make it glowing once, and then the brass is also much softer and can be bent more easily. So that I'm doing next. And in that case it's not that important that it cools down very slowly, because brass is not like steel, it cannot be hardened that way. So yeah, let's just quickly make them glowing once. And I'm doing this with a flame on that stone. Okay, the tiny pieces don't need to be bent, it's only those 2. while these cool down, let's read what you're saying, David. Electroforming. Yeah, I know. I'm actually, I have a setup for gold plating. Like, is it called galvanizing? Not sure. But yeah, adding a very thin gold layer around brass pieces, and I'm using it for, yeah, like very luxurious miniatures and jewelry and stuff. I want to do a bit more of this in the future. And it's kind of a cheap way to keep the brass very shiny golden and not have it oxidize over time. Ink paint. Conductive coating. So are you trying to make electrical circuits on it? With electroplating, like on those, yeah, the electrical boards, how are they called? You know what I mean. I also did some electronic stuff when I was studying computer science, but I also always ordered the PCB boards. I never tried making them myself. Friends of mine did, but they kind of failed, and yeah, I figured it was just easier to order them. But it would be really cool to be able to, yeah, etch circuits onto other objects which might not be flat, yeah. So if you're figuring something out, it could be really cool. I mean, like using a circuit and making it all around an object rather than on a flat board. Like you have a sculpture and it's covered in, don't know, a digital watch circuit or something like this. That could be cool. Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting technique and lots of things to try out. Okay, those brass parts are also ready now. Let's take them off. Now I have a piece of my soldering stone attached to it. Removed it with a file real quickly. Yeah, I nearly forgot to cut the threads in here before bending, so I'm doing that real quickly again. And then for the bending. Okay, you're using the etching process on organic items like flowers, twigs, leaves, or 3D printed items to make it easy. Shiny jewelry for my friend. Yeah, but it's really great. Covering things in metal makes it much more valuable at an instance, of course. Yeah. Stop motion scale parts. Yeah, that could be nice as well. I mean, I prefer just working with brass, of course, and making it from real metal, also for its mechanical properties. But if you're making props, for example, which just need to look good, then yeah, of course, why not use 3D printing and coat it in a layer of copper or anything. Really interesting. Yeah. Let's do this. Let me know when you have a PCB curved around a sculpture. I really want to see this. And I'm on the wrong camera again. Sorry, sometimes I just forget to switch angles. Yeah, on the steel I used the tabs which come in a set of 3, like first, second and last cutter, to make it a bit easier for the cutters, because even the soft steel is pretty hard. But on the brass, especially the softened one, I'm pretty sure I can do it in one go with the machine tab.
Normal amount of suffering. Normal amount of suffering. In the past, you bonded more emotionally. The inclinations towards theories of the mind.
I must console myself with the reflection that the nature of the subject is evidently responsible for this, rather than any preference of my own.
Might have an ability to do things as they are supposed to be done, learning things that have a pattern. Language grammar, rules like orthography, or logical sense like cartography. Physics, for example, visualize, understand, remember pattern.
I'm also really quickly sanding down the brass parts, the oxide layer from the brass parts, because it's just easier to make them shiny before I bend them. And I'm not doing it crazy fine here, because I'm not going for a completely shiny switch. I'm using kind of a matte finish. It's easier, and I think for an industrial miniature like this, it's fine if it has a matte finish. Or how do you pronounce it? If it's not shiny, I'm not sure.
Normal amount of suffering.
Good enough for now. I will go over it with the polishing wheel once it's bent anyway. Speaking of electroplating, I also want to show you the process of gold plating in a future live stream maybe. Toxic chemicals involved, and I think I want to get a feel for it a bit more before showing it. Also I need a nice miniature project which is kind of worth a gold plating. Maybe I will do a piece of jewelry or something. Little spoiler, some of the gear parts you saw on the laser sheets are actually intended for a jewelry project. So now for the bending. Get me my pliers.
I must console myself. With the reflection that the nature of the subject is evidently responsible for this, rather than any preference of my own.
Yeah, cyanide-based gold plating. It really makes you nervous. I mean, it's okay. Watchmakers and goldsmiths do it as well, but it just makes me nervous having that kind of chemicals in my workshop at all. But it's just so interesting. Thanks for letting me know the audio. I think I'm back now. Yeah, for some reason my software crashed. I hope it's not happening anymore. Not sure if I'm in sync with talking now, because every time I start the software new, the delay on the cameras changes, and every time I have to adjust it, and I hope it's okay like this. Yeah, I just switch back to this camera. I just bent a right angle into that part, and the other side is a bit tricky because the vise is in the way, of course, so I can only bend it a bit in that direction, and the rest I have to do free-handed. Yeah, I can go up until here. I'm always trying to press against this flat surface when bending pieces to make them at a right angle, not like curved here and here, only a nice sharp edge there. Of course there are special contraptions for this purpose, but I don't have a bending thingy and it's okay like this for tiny parts. Yeah, and this one is really tricky because, yeah, I want to bend those two things upwards and there's not really a way to reach in here. So, yeah, I kind of have to press down on it like this. Or maybe, let's think, no, this doesn't work. Yeah, I think I have to press down on it. Let's think how to do this. I think it should work like this. If I clamp it here and then press this thing inside, like this. But it's really fiddly. If I do the other one now, I get a bit more space to work again. I think it's a bit dark on that camera, isn't it? Let's make it a bit brighter again, like this. Oops. Okay, number 1 is at a right angle. Now switch it around again and do the second one. Okay, so that's how it looks now. It's not quite perfect. You see in the... let's go a bit closer, just a second. You can see the two fins are not exactly parallel, but there will be a rod between them. And it's nice if there is some tension, because that creates some friction on the rod and gives a nice feel to the switch if it's not completely loose. And so it's quite good if these fins press inwards a bit on the rod. Okay. Okay, some more comments. Hi, a new one. Manny Duran. Hi. Your work is amazing. Do you need a helper? All the time. But I also have... whoops. But I also have some helpers sometimes. If you follow the project, you might see some of them. Sometimes in posts there are 2 people, Inka and Maurice, who are with me in the workshop for at least 1 day a week, sometimes 2 days a week, so that's quite a lot. I had an animator working for me for the last set, and last month I had an intern for the first time, which was also a new experience. Why are you asking? Do you want to be a helper? But it might be a bit difficult if you're not in the area. And David again, I could do some micro tools for making micro-sized parts. Maybe if you remember, I made a tiny jeweler saw once, like this thing in tiny, but as you can imagine, tiny tools are not that nice to handle. They are more like a joke. Yeah, I will clean them when I assemble them. For now, I think the rod in the center will be the next part. And yeah, so a piece of this rod is going inside here. And so we cut it to length and drill in a hole on both sides. And I'm using the same technique here as on my first live stream with the eye catcher miniature, where I'm using a screw as a hinge. Like the thread is in this part and the rod goes between and doesn't have a thread, only a hole. So the screw doesn't clamp anything together, it's just a screw, but it works as a hinge for the rod piece. So yeah, that's this. Somewhere I have written how long that rod should be, but we can also measure the distance real quickly again. So that's 10.8 millimeter, and I'm going to machine it to 11 millimeters, because yeah, then there's some tension on the rod. So yeah, I will use the mill for cutting it to length and the lathe for drilling the holes. So that will be a bit of non-talking work now. But I think I'm getting better with multitasking over time. So let's see, any new comments on Twitch? No. So let me do this little rod thingy and see you then. Oh no. Have to restart the camera again, sorry. Be right back, just a second. I have to restart the camera. There's always something, isn't it? Here it is. 360. Now it should be working again, hopefully. Yeah, my setup is a bit of a mess, but it was the only way to make this streaming going to work with the cameras I have, and I don't really have the budget to buy new cameras right now, because the movie is of course a bit more important. Oh no.
People walking slowly, they have no idea that I am struggling with the worst diarrhea. I've given everything I could. People walking slowly, they have no idea that I am struggling with
Yeah, I know that's a bit too much stick out. Sorry for this. It works very slowly. I should have clamped it at the edge of the vise there. I can lower it further, but yeah, it's okay for a tiny piece and a tiny sharp saw blade. Yeah, I did one cut, then I zeroed out my little DRO here, and then I go down 11 millimeters plus the thickness of that blade, which is 0.4 millimeters. So I'm going down to 11.4, like this. Have some clearance. That cut should hopefully sound a bit better. Let's hear that. And then the piece is cut to length. So that's the piece cut to length. And do I have a lathe? Yes, kind of, but it's a really tiny one without a DRO, and it's so tiny that the cut-off tool isn't able to retract far enough to actually cut something. The thing is too tiny in every direction, but I got it from a supporter and I'm very glad I have it, especially for hand-turning stuff. But at some point I definitely need a bigger one, which is actually able to cut something off precisely and things like this. So yeah, you will see it right away, because now I will switch over to the lathe. Here it is. Tiny. Time for some extra light here. Yeah, you see the thing is, this tool only retracts up to here. I can't go more in that direction because the travel is very short. And the cut-off blade I have to clamp in here, if I clamp it as far back as I can, it's still overhanging over the center of the rotation, so yeah, it's not much use for cutting off, but it's useful for drilling these little holes here. Maybe get a bit closer with the camera, just a second, and a bit brighter as well. I can also use it to deburr the edges, so that's at least something nice. Just need the right Alm key. I think that tool is a bit dull. Didn't use it very often and I got it used, so probably need a new insert at some point. No, maybe it's on the wrong height. Let's adjust that. Very lazy again. Yeah, it's not very precise, everything. Much better. Yeah, that's okay. So, for the drill, that one is too thick if I remember correctly. So, I have to change that.
Go fuck a cow. I don't wanna talk to anybody today.
To the 1mm one. So the M1 screw fits right through, it doesn't engage. Okay.
Just fucking die. Just fucking die.
Bad thoughts in her head about me, head about me, head about me. Bad thoughts in her head about me, but she wouldn't say. One morning you walked along in the park, hand in hand. Actually it was alright, but something was a bit strange. I was talking all along, telling her about my song, but she was quieter than here. I wonder what went wrong. Bad thoughts in her head about me, head about me, head about me. Bad thoughts in her head about me, but she wouldn't say. We went to a movie once. It was fun, well at least for me. Just till I had a chance, I looked at her to see. She was looking so annoyed, and I was lucky to avoid the punch she threw right in my face. I would have been destroyed. Bad thoughts in her head about me, head about me, head about me. Bad thoughts in her head about me, but she wouldn't say. Heard some noises the other night. It was strange, cause it wasn't me. Wondered what it's all about, I had to check it out. I walked to the kitchen so worried about my quality of life, when suddenly she grabbed my neck, holding a 10-inch knife. Well, bad thoughts in her head about me, head about me, head about me.
Piece finished. And I'm not going to touch it because I want to solder it next, and that works best if it isn't full of human fat. So yeah, I drilled both sides. I'm using some very tiny carbide mills, drills, not mills, with a special geometry at the tip, so I don't need to start the hole. I can go in with the drill directly, and you saw it produce this really beautiful chips. Those drills are nice. Yeah, and I also used the opportunity to polish the surface of the rod real quickly. And for things like this, where I'm really up close with my hands to the lathe, I'm very glad it's so tiny, because at least this lathe wouldn't rip off a finger or something. So I think for handwork on the lathe, it's nice to have a really tiny one which has not much strength. I mean, it still hurts, but it's not like crazy dangerous. And if I have a bigger one, then that would be more for serious machining and not for handwork. So there are some new comments. I will really quickly go through it. Oh, quite a lot actually. Yeah, it's actually a Unimat lathe. Yeah, I got it from a Patreon supporter who had it and decided to give it to me because he also had another lathe he uses mainly, and that was very kind. I also appreciate gifts like this besides donations, of course. Yeah, Warhammer and miniatures like this, great way to get into miniature making, and I particularly love to make things from scratch, basically, without buying some ready-made designed parts, like only using rods and plates and designing everything yourself. But yeah, I actually had a tiny model railway thingy when I was a kid. And this is what got me started into making things, basically. Yeah, I also use the scratch technique for measuring the length on the lathe often. I also have a special tool for that, so I don't... this one. It's kind of calipers, but it has a special marking tip, so I don't ruin my actual calipers. But it's not that precise, and as I said, I don't have a cut-off tool for the lathe. So if I'm cutting something off in the lathe, I'm usually doing it by just holding a manual saw onto the rotating thing. And yeah, it's just more precise on the mill with those little slitting saws. I actually like those milling saws a lot, because it's very easy to remove a lot of material in a precise way without having to mill away layer by layer of everything. So quite often I can just cut off a chunk of material with those saws. So you also have a Unimat lathe. Yeah, I think for their size they are quite nice. They are just a bit too tiny, but I think they make larger ones as well. Yeah, high-speed steel works better, but that's what I got with the lathe, and yeah, I really have to buy some other tools at some point, but yeah, usually I'm using the lathe for hand turning and using those tools only to get a straight edge onto things, and it worked for that. But yeah, I also have some high-speed tool steel tools I ground myself out of old drills and stuff, and those work actually better. So what else do we have? Quite a lot of comments. End mill type drills. I'm not sure if that's the name. I'm not sure if you know the YouTuber Stefan Gotteswinter. He's also a German guy but does English videos, and he's kind of the best machinist on YouTube, and he made a long video all about different drill geometries, and I think those ones have a cross tip geometry. Not sure if that's the correct term, but yeah, they kind of just do their own spot drilling. Like they can just go in. Yeah, you need a milling machine to do everything by hand. Yeah, it took me quite a while to afford my milling machine, and it's already limiting. So I would like to have a larger one or a CNC one and stuff like this, but it's just so expensive. And for like, I have it for 3 years now, and for the other 7 years of working on the project, I did everything manually by filing and sawing. But it really helps to have a mill. And when I had to decide if I want to buy a mill or a lathe, I figured a mill is more universally useful, because I usually have square parts and not necessarily round ones. And yeah, so I decided to go with a mill. But yeah, lathe is next, definitely. I also know you recommend the Proxon machines. I'm not sure if I would agree. I mean, they're nice hobbyist machines, but they are definitely hobbyist machines. I had used a couple of Proxon tools, and for me they were always a bit too flimsy, not stiff enough. The mill I have is Wabeco. Can Google it. It's also a German company, but I think it's not really manufactured in Germany. They're a bit more pricey, but they're just between hobbyist and industrial machine. I mean, they're definitely not industrial machines, but they get used to how's it called? For learning machining and stuff. And they are at least proper machines with a proper tool insert and everything, and I think I would recommend something like what I have here. Yeah, the thing is, converting that machine to CNC is not much use for what I would need the CNC for. I'm not an expert at all this, but from my understanding, I have normal, like tapered, how's it called? Trapezoidal spindles to move the entire thing around. And if a CNC mill goes a lot of back and forth, those wear out a lot. And also they have quite a bit of backlash, and that's okay, software can correct the backlash and stuff. But one of the use cases I really would need a CNC is for milling threads. And milling tiny threads needs crazy precise CNC machines. But the thing is, it gets a bit too much into depth. But for some of the pieces I'm using for my mechanical hands, it's apparently not really possible to cut it with the usual thread cutter, and I can do it manually, but there's always some burr sticking out from the thread, and I have to file that flat, and it takes a lot of time. And apparently thread milling would be the best solution to get a tiny thread into a really hard material without any burrs and anything. And yeah, I would, if I would get a CNC, I would need a crazy precise one with roller bearing, spindles, and yeah, very precise thing. And also a high-speed spindle and stuff for tiny things. So I think I'm sticking with the one I have for now, and at some point I might get a proper industrial machine, a used one or something. but I also don't have the space right now. I mean, you have seen the room. So yeah, lot of talking this time. For under 100 euros, no way. A proper CNC conversion with everything you need, I don't think so. I did a bit of research and there are like conversion kits for my mill, but it's more like 1,000 euros or something. By the way, to get to a kind of, how do you say it, a rough estimate for the price of the mill I have, it was like 2,000 euros around. With tooling and accessories it was, I think, 2,700 or something. So that's around the ballpark. And I think Proxon is more like a couple of €100, and there's definitely quite a difference between those. But still far away from an industrial machine. Okay, enough for talking for now. Let's continue building things. I have this tiny rod, and I'm going to solder on the little handle now. I will polish the piece. And insert the rod, and I will solder it with normal, like, how is it called? The normal electric solder. That's enough for that purpose. Okay, too much talking for now. Let me rearrange the cameras real quickly and do this. Okay.
It doesn't matter who you meet, no one will stay forever. Get yourself together, 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 get yourself together.
Come on. Last time it worked. Now it worked. So let's hope this works. Sometimes it's really easy to mess this up. But that worked beautifully. It really doesn't need very much soldering or anything. If it flows in nicely, then a tiny bit is the right amount. And those cross pliers, I think they are called, those things, they are really useful to hold tiny things for soldering and any kind of holding work. Yeah, and what you saw me in the beginning with this thing here, that's a very small reamer, and I just opened up the laser cut holes in these pieces to the diameter of the rod, so it fits in nicely. Yeah. So let's put that aside again.
When the fat man collapsed, they started to laugh. Look at him down. Every romance that he's ever had has failed. But you see, it's not his fault.
Now a bit more assembly, like this piece goes in between here. I'm going to polish that a bit more, also going to polish that again because after soldering it got a bit of a different color, and then putting in the 2 screws from the sides, and then we have the main part of our little switch thingy.
I'm gonna
Make some changes in my life. I'm gonna throw out some things. Like dirty things, like little things, like scary furry things, like glowing things, like yellow things, like sodium metal things.
inserting it from the back side because it's bent in that direction and that makes it easier to squeeze the rod between those pieces. Now it just needs to go a bit further. Well, it's always difficult to do these things on camera. Come on.
While cleaning his closet, he found a ghost of an
Okay.
old lady. Without
Now it is in
momentary
place.
hesitation, he picked up the phone and called the exterminator, who answered and said, "I'm sorry, but I only work on Mondays, Fridays, and dog days." Unfortunately, it wasn't any of these days, especially not Friday. So as the ghost rattled behind him,
Okay, a bit hard to show in camera, but it's in place and it moves nicely and the two ledges
he had to wait.
have a nice friction so it stays in place always. Thank you so much, that's so nice. What else do we have? Forgot to say earlier, when you're using the acid to clean up, citric is far too weak. Yeah, I experienced that as well. Sodium bisulfate. Yeah, I will try that, maybe I write it down. Sodium bisulfate. I will definitely try that out, thanks a lot. Crockpot. Use it in a crockpot. Have to Google what that is, but I will probably find something. When I have the name, there will be some instructions online and stuff. That could really help. Okay, so yeah, the main switch part is basically ready, so we can start assembling it to the wooden parts again. So yeah. Boop, boop, boop. Now, just a second. Okay, make some room here. Tools are always using up all the working space after a while. Okay, so the switch will go on this piece onto here, and that piece will be behind like this, so that these marks here show up nicely. I used the laser to engrave a little electrical symbol here, but it's not that visible, it's not that deeply engraved, and yeah, I hoped it would turn out a bit more visible, but that's how it is. So this goes onto here, but for now we are assembling the entire switch on this piece, as it's easier to work without the other piece. and the back plate goes behind that, and yeah, a screw goes through here, through the wood, into the back plate and holds everything together. And here are two small slits. Let's make it a bit brighter again. Why isn't it working? No. Like this. Okay, so here are two slits, and there the contacts will be pushed in. And they look very similar, but they are not identical. One of those has a tiny step to the end, and that step will go into that slit. Let me show it on the other camera, where it's a bit more visible. Just a second. Okay. Hope it's possible to see it. Let's pick that up. So yeah, this contact. No, it's not possible to see it. So up here, that contact has a tiny step down here, and the other one doesn't. And when we use this back plate, one contact will be here, and then the back plate gets pushed up, and that makes the little step connect in here and get tightly squeezed. I would have loved to do the same thing on the other contact, but of course they need to be electrically isolated, so the other one is just basically loose into the wood, and we will bend it on the other side of the wood so it has a bit of a connection, and then the soldering spot will also prevent it from going out again. But that thing, that rigid connection here, is really nice to have, at least on the main pin. So yeah, let's assemble this thing. Really quickly, I forgot to polish the tiny contacts. I will do this really quickly with the hand file, because that's easiest for tiny parts like this. Just put them on the fingertip and go over it a couple of times. Number one. Number two. Okay. So let me quickly adjust the camera again. Can we get any closer? Maybe. Not that easy, but like this. So that's okay, hopefully. Contact number one on this side. I'm holding it with my finger so it doesn't fall out. Maybe, yeah, we can put it down like this. And metal plate goes in here. And if I push it up, yeah, it engages with the piece here, and now the holes line up, and that contact holds thoroughly. Okay. No. Let's put this one here. Always fiddly to get in the first screw. Now. Yeah, and it engages with the steel backplate. And these screws we can also tighten really hard because yeah, the thread is in steel. That's strong enough. An M1 thread really doesn't work in wood, at least not very good, but everything up to M1.4, M1.6 kind of works, I think. Oh no! I actually broke off a screw head. That must be a bad screw. Hopefully I will be able to get it out again. I didn't tighten it very much, but sometimes this happens. Oh damn it, how do I get it out again?
You were a beautiful
I'm not really able to turn it, I think.
and I loved you.
Oh no, that's a shame. Let's look really quickly. 1.6 is crazy tiny. The smallest one I'm usually using is just an M1.0, and for example all the knuckles of my mechanical hands are M1, and it kind of became a standard for me. I'm using also a lot of M1.2 if I have a bit more room, and yeah, for wood and larger things M1.6, 2, M2, those are kind of my standards, and M1.6 already feels large for me. Another suggestions in the comments using my 800-degree kiln to do some casting. 800-degree is not really enough for brass, apparently. You need like 100 degrees more, so it's really on the edge. You can get it kind of melted, but not hot enough to pour it properly. I could do some... I'm missing the word. Tin? Is it tin? Yeah, I think tin castings, but I'm not sure what to use them. If I would want the same part multiple times, I would probably just commission it to a company to do it properly. Also, my workshop has a wooden floor, and I think it would be a very stupid idea to experiment with molten metal on a wooden floor. So I would need to go outside, and I have no proper place there, so yeah. And for that nasty little screw, I think I'm going to try to cut a tiny slit on the back side, so I am able to turn it again. Please, fingers crossed. I'm not sure if it will work, but I really want to get it out again, because else it looks just very ugly. Does it work? Good enough, maybe. Let you see what I'm doing.
You were a beautiful
Yeah, it's not a very good solution. I'm also not sure if it works. Okay, get you an up-close view of that. Okay, here's the end of the screw. Now please come out. No, it's really sticking into the metal. Maybe I have to drill it out. That always works, but it's very easy to ruin the thread that way. But in that case, it's not that critical if the thread gets ruined. Because I have 4 screws where 2 would be enough. Let's go to this view. Any ideas? Yeah, setting your apartment on fire might be a bad idea to get the deposit back. I have a friend here who does a lot of casting, and he has a proper workshop. So if I ever want to do some casting, then I would probably ask him. But if you want to cast some tiny pieces, like the ones I'm using usually here, it's not that easy to do. So if for jewelry and stuff, it's really the best idea to commission it to a company, because they can do the centrifuge thing. Like, they can pour it while everything rotates really quickly, and then the metal really goes into all the tiny details and turns out nicely. And that's really something you shouldn't try at home. But yeah, I never tried working with casting so far. At some point I will, but before that I have so much other things to do. Okay, now let's try to get the screw out for once. I'm already streaming for 2 hours. Oh no, there's so much to do. Okay, get it flat first. Okay, it's out. So let's hope the next screw will work and won't be breaking off again. I will not tighten it that much anymore. But still, something must have been wrong with that screw. And I think there are still some remains, because the screw isn't going in nicely. What the fuck? Sorry. The same thing happened again. What's wrong? What's wrong with this? I did it so many times, and I'm screwing up here. Things happen. Bear with me. I will make it eventually. Now, please work. Okay, and this time I'm going through with the tab again to make sure the thread is free of debris and everything. Oh, there's also an entire piece of screw. Why is the one I'm messing up the one in the live stream? Okay. Now. Very gentle. With the next screw. Okay. Now it's fine. I only tightened it ever so slightly. It will be okay. Nothing is visible from the outside. Only the one screw is a bit less tight. That's okay. And the last one. Nice. Okay, I have to bend the contacts a tiny bit. I think when doing the construction on the computer for all the parts, I messed up the position of the slots a tiny bit, and now the contacts are always a bit too much to the inside. But yeah, it's possible to bend it in such a way that the switch nicely engages. What? Stream died? No, stream isn't dying. Please let me know, is it working right now? Because I see my stream, it looks fine. Yeah, let me know if there are any problems, but from what I can tell, it works. And yeah, let me show how the switch is looking now. So here we have a close-up view, and you can see how the switch is engaging with the contact, and I can move it out like this. Oh no, I scratched it a bit, but it's okay. And now it's engaging. And if we add the second contact, that should close an electrical circuit if there's a voltage across. Yeah, sometimes there's just something wrong with the internet connection. I mean, streaming is kind of a difficult thing for computers. I mean, it's a lot of data which needs to be sent around the world really quickly. Let's be patient with it. Just quickly polishing out that scratch again. So before assembling the entire box now, I'm going to attach the wires first, I think. But when we are going to the soldering iron, I can prepare something else to solder in the same time, because there will be an attachment for the 9-volt battery, and of course the little battery clip. I have those here, you probably know them, these thingies. They need to be soldered as well. Nice comment. So clever, albeit terrifying to see exposed power. I believe this style of switches are still used around the world. Yeah, I also thought, is it okay if there's exposed power on the outside? But I think we have to put it in context. What I have here is 9-volt DC, and there's not much harm those can do. I mean, if you touch it, it's completely fine. You probably won't even feel it. If you stick your tongue to it, it zaps you, but it's okay. It's probably nothing you would do with the switch, and if you do, yeah, it's just like touching an electrical fence or something. But touching it by hand is okay. I mean, see, this is the 9-volt block, and I'm feeling absolutely nothing if I'm cross-touching the contacts. The only risk might be that it's easy to short-circuit the thing if you're touching a metal towards it, but of course there will always be a lamp or some other device in line, so yeah, there will be no proper short-circuit. There will be always some resistance in the circuit. And yeah, these types of switch are still used. I think, I'm not quite sure because I'm not an electrical engineer, but as far as I know, they are used actually in really high current applications, because the design can handle quite a lot of current because it has some really bulky, thick metal contacts. And usually nowadays you have the contacts covered by a plastic housing, so you're not able to touch them. And the switch itself, the one you're touching, the handle, is also isolated from the main power. Okay, I think no, that's the wrong direction. Yeah, I have to squeeze that battery attachment through a hole I designed a bit too tiny, but yeah, it barely fits. And I was lucky to get it the right way on the first try, because I didn't think about it. Okay, so we will have the switch on the outside and this thing on the inside, and there will be two cables coming up from the switch onto here, and they will be connected to those and to the little socket. I'm using one of those circuit board sockets, which goes in these tiny holes here. Let's press it in right away. Snap. And yeah, the contacts are exposed down here. Two cables will go up through these holes, and then I can wire up everything on top of here before adding the nice tabletop to all of it. It's a bit out of frame here. Thankfully low powered. For a moment I thought we'd be going to full Frankenstein. Would be cool, of course, but no, I don't have much interest in deep frying my biggest supporters for now. So yeah, this is all prepared. I will quickly go up to my soldering station and see you there. Those cables drive me crazy. Okay, I also need to wet the sponge for soldering real quickly, so yeah, be right back.
Cosmic candy spontaneously landing in a glass full of coke.
Okay, I have attached the wires. You saw me put on quite a bit of solder here, and that's because the soldering ball, whatever, is also what holds the little switch contact in the wood, so it can't be pulled out. So that's the reason I overdid it a bit there. Yeah, and I also put the blue ground wire to the side which is connected to all the framing and the main switch. So if the switch isn't switched on and you touch it, it's only the ground. If that matters by with a battery, but better maybe.
Did I do nice? I can't remember. I have to play doctor for my feet.
Okay, there will be a bit or more soldering later, but for now I will assemble all the wooden parts, and maybe I'm leaving the camera there at the soldering place because we will need it later and do the assembly that way. That's another perspective for now.
This is the reason why I laugh. But today I continued. My life is objectively miserable, and there is no reason to be happy apart from the fact that I'm not sleeping under the bridge.
Where are my pliers? Still there. Of course, I can't tighten these screws crazy, but if you're interested how it is with threads in wood, just try cutting threads of different sizes in wood and inserting a screw and tightening it until the thread breaks. And it often takes a surprising amount of force, and that gives you a good feel of what works and what doesn't. And brass screws on dark walnut wood is just a beautiful combination, I think. Front side, back side. The back side has my, not sure if it's visible, my little logo on it. Yeah, and now the assembly is a bit more tricky because I have to get all these parts with this connectors here nicely attached to each other. So squeeze it in. It's fairly tight, but I want it that way so it holds thoroughly. Snap. now we attach the front side, and here I'm actually using a tiny bit of glue onto these connectors, so it's definitely not coming apart.
Your credit card, driver's license, ID, medical card, student card, your whole wallet. Actually, everything's gone.
Okay.
It's not good and it's not fun at
For
all.
applying
You have
wood
to
glue
redo all of
to
these cards all over again.
tiny pieces,
It's
I'm usually
a
just
It's
putting a
real
drop
tickle.
down on a piece of paper
You're in a doozy McCluskey.
and then using a toothpick or some other tiny thing to get the glue where I want it, because directly from the bottle it's just a mess. That way I can get a nice small amount inside here, and that will be plenty enough to make a rigid connection there. There's not much force, maybe a bit in between here where the pieces will touch, but yeah, I don't use crazy much. It's not a chair someone will sit on, and I really don't want any glue to squeeze out on the sides, because that will be ugly. Like this. And now I have to think that it's not the wrong way. I think that's okay like this. Now squeeze that in here. Oh no, I forgot something. I have to remove it really quickly again, because those wires, the red and the blue one, need to go to the side, and there I have some space in the part where they are intended to fit. Like this. Okay, so yeah, now you can see the wires coming up here, and there are some tiny gaps prepared in the laser pieces exactly for those wires. And for now I'm leaving out the backside, because it's easier to finish the soldering without the backside first, because I need to get all the way inside here, up here again. So yeah, that's what I'm doing now. So let's quickly go back to this soldering station again.
Я чувствую, что если бы кто-то ударил меня ножом, я бы не умер, потому что я наполнен сверхъестественным блеском.
Že kdyby mě někdo bodl, nezemřel bych, protože jsem naplněn nadpřirozeným bleskem.
And probably I can't really speak back at the soldering station, because I'm too far away from the microphone. There are also some more questions. I like it a lot. Thanks, David. Coming along great. Do wonder what you'll be controlling with the 9-volt supply. Yeah, I have a couple of ideas. I think for now it will be first some easy things like nice little lamps and stuff, but I also have some more complex things in mind. Let's see. there's plenty of opportunity. You can also make your own little attachments for it. It's just basically a 9-volt switchable supply. And how many cameras do you have set up in your space? 3. I have one webcam, that's what I'm talking to right now. I have one DSLR camera with a normal zoom lens on, that's what you're seeing here, like at the soldering station, the one I'm moving around all the time. And then I'm having a third DSLR camera, and that one has a macro lens. That's the one where I can get really close on tiny details, like my fingerprint. And yeah, so that's basically what I have here. It would be nice to have even more cameras, because then I wouldn't need to move around that much with the cameras. But for now it's difficult enough to have everything going, and my laptop is screaming all the time because it has to render all these camera feeds. And yeah, it would be really great if you made a tiny Tesla coil which is compatible with the power supply. I would love to see this, but I would keep away from it as well. You know what? I'm just enlarging that hole a bit with a drill. Maybe let's do a little test right away, because now everything is connected and it should already work. The soldering spots on the bottom side of the little plug are really hard to reach, so these are not my nicest soldering spots, but I think it's a good connection. Yay. Quick test approved. Okay, so it kind of works. It will be a bit nicer in the end, of course, with the little handle and stuff. But the circuit is closed. It works. No short circuit. And yeah, everything is connected. So now let's close the box and do the last steps. One last note: when I connected the two ground wires of the battery here, that's an open connection. Usually I would have used a bit of shrinking tube there to cover it up, but it's fully enclosed in wood. There's nothing it could touch which would lead to a short circuit or anything, so I think it was okay to be lazy there. No, it will be fine. Okay, so let's add the last side with a bit of glue again. Another nice comment from David. Looks like you have enough space left inside that so you could fit a small PCB and microcontroller inside. Yeah, could be. The thing is, I actually have ideas for things which involve microcontrollers or other PCBs. But I don't want to have it in the little box with the battery, because that should be like all purpose for lamps and motors and anything you would want to put into it. And if I would add a PCB right into the box, then it's a bit restrictive, and I can also I wouldn't be able to release some software update or something for it. I really want the box to be a simple device, just on and off, and the things which can be connected might involve more complex electronics. Not for now, but maybe someday. But it's a really nice idea. So yeah, if you want to get one of those boxes and fit something of yourself inside, a little invention, then that's totally possible. I will also sell these boxes in my online shop if you're interested. Not right away, I have to take some nice pictures and stuff, but in a couple of days they will be available probably. And of course all these miniatures, including the upcoming things to plug into this this box, they will all be for my Patreon supporters. So if you want to get tiny miniature surprises every month, that might be a nice option to consider. Just a bit of advertising there. Hope that's okay. But yeah, of course, I'm also really glad for all donations and stuff to keep me going here. Okay, the box is nearly finished. Just the top, which is left. We already tested it, so I think it's fine if I just glue on the top right away. I'm also not using crazy much glue here, just a bit around the edges, because maybe if something breaks, then it would be nice to be able to break it open again and correct the soldering or anything, just in case. Or maybe if David wants to add his PCB controller inside, then it's nice if he is still able to lift off the tabletop. Yeah, the plug is also, whoops, the little socket adapter thingy is also quite a tight fit in the table. So, snap. It's really beautiful how precise these laser parts are. It's a pleasure. Okay. Box complete. I will leave that drying for now. And next up will be the little handle. And I think that's already the last part. So I think it's off to the lathe again. The handle is also just a piece of round brass material. I will make a hole and a tiny thread on one end to attach it to the handle, and I will use some hand turning to give it a bit of a nice shape outside, just eyeballing it. Yeah, thanks David. I also have quite fun designing these little products, but I must admit they are not selling very well, because you can see there goes a lot of handcraft into these pieces, even not counting the development time it takes to figure everything out. So they are probably a bit too expensive, I guess. But then again, they are handcrafted and only in a very small batch. Currently I'm making 10 every month, 10 somethings every month, and 4 or 5 of them already go out to Patreon, so yeah, they are very limited and an exclusive thing. And yeah, regarding all the time which goes into these pieces, they are just a bit too expensive, I guess. But yeah, if you're interested, I am very glad if you want to get something. I also have cheaper merch which isn't handcrafted and stuff. Okay, off to the lathe.
Uncertainty
It's not properly adjusted. Tiny bit more.
And it sounds like
These are just the nicest chips. I had to show them off.
što u snu drvo može simbolički označavati B, tako i u životu B može simbolički označavati nešto drugo za čime tragaš. Pita me šta ja u stvari želim. Ja kažem, pa u stvari ja šta god da radim samo želim da letim. Evo na primjer kada jašem konja, ja to radim da bih nekada sa njim poletela. Kako sam to rekla, scena se smenjuje. Ja sam na bini, dobila sam nagradu, ne znam za šta. Reflektori upere na mene, svi mi aplaudiraju. F je tu, u publici, ali stoji nekako izdvojen sa strane i ladno priča sa nekim ljudima. Uopšte ne gleda i ne sluša šta se dešava. Sećam se njegove face, kako gricka sebi unutrašnjost obraza i sluša kako mu neko nešto priča, izgleda kao da se mega dosađuje.
I must console myself with the reflection that the nature of the subject is evidently responsible for this, rather than any preference of my own.
Might have an ability to do things as they are supposed to be done, learning things that have a pattern.
reflection. That the nature of the subject is evidently responsible for this. Rather than any preference of my own.
So, that's the tiny handle. It makes me always very nervous to cut an M1 thread on the lathe, because even I'm hand turning the chuck, you're turning the entire motor, and the chuck has a size, and it's very hard to feel how much force you're actually using on the tap. And yeah, it worked, luckily, but I was always very afraid. I'm using a hand file to round off the tip of the handle now, because there it was attached, and of course it's not really possible to machine that nicely around on the lathe without turning it around. And for a decorative piece, I think it's good enough to finish it with the hand file. Bit of sandpaper maybe to get rid of the marks, or at least make it appear a bit more evenly. Okay. So here's the piece. Let me quickly retrieve the other camera for showing the final assembly.
What do you want? I never knew what it meant to have a mental illness.
And maybe lay down the cabling properly again. Just a hazard when they are lying around in the workshop. And yeah, I'm using a fork here.
We should talk about mental health. We should talk about mental health.
So yeah, that one is a bit hard to attach, obviously, because we need to get in the screw like this, but we can't, like the rod is in the way, we can't can't turn the screw head at a right angle. So we have to, yeah, it works. But it's a bit challenging to turn the screw like at an angle. Okay. Wearing it in, because yeah, the laser edges are a bit rough and I didn't polish the insides of those contacts, so I'm just working it in. But that feels like a thorough connection now. So yeah, that's the little switch now. I would say let's attach a lamp to the top, and then that's basically it. Maybe go around with the polishing wheel again real quick. Human fat is so annoying. Yeah, order of operation makes a big difference. You're absolutely right, David. It would have been a lot more intelligent to first attach the handle and then solder the rod. But for some reason I was just thinking about the handle as the last piece, and yeah, it still worked. It's funny, like the order of operations, I feel it's like half of machining is figuring out in which order to do things, and combine it with how to hold things. Like in which order and how to hold things. Those are the big questions of machining, I think. Yeah, you're absolutely right, but there's always things to improve. I mean, usually if I'm doing the series of 10 miniatures, I'm doing one to learn how to do it and screw up, and then I'm doing the other ones. But with these here, yeah, whatever. it's not that bad, I guess. Yeah, for the connectors on top here, I have this little things, also electronic connectors, and they pop in here quite nicely. And everything which will be attached to these will have a connector like this. And yeah, I'm not sure, maybe let's solder a little bulb to this one here, and then we can attach it there. So yeah, let's go back to the soldering station one last time. Ah, those cables.
And as proof, I present you now with this next section. I don't even care. I don't even care. I don't even care. day. Talking in language doesn't make sense. Playing hide and seek with my declining confidence. Going in rounds, you can never see the point. Located in the center between my wrist and my joint. Pink, smoke, contaminates the air. I'm breathing only numbers, what do you care? When the mantra comes back with an asthma attack, we're expected to neglect it and then finally go back to where I don't even care. I don't even care. I don't even care. I don't give a damn. Every second chance at to start with a mistake. With a bonnet of a soul, the speaker and your belly ache. Nervous sending electronic signals to your brain. As it happened then and later and again and again and again. I roll the chain. The tooth cannot explain the amount of sugar into is too much to contain. But it's only gas and the social gas. A drinking of the sun and a magnifying glass. I don't even care.
You tell him, boy.
It's not working.
I don't even care. Yeah, I don't even care.
Okay,
I don't
my fault.
give a damn.
911, what's your emergency? Excuse me? Alright, where are you? Okay, sir, let's work this out.
Okay, here we are. Yeah, the bulb directly, soldering the bulb directly to the connector is obviously not the nicest way to do it, but it's the quickest and it's just a little tester. The nice test pieces will be future project. So this works. Let's put this here and zoom a bit in on that. Now for the moment of truth. Oh, I forgot to add the battery. Here it is. Let me quickly fiddle that in. There's obviously not much space, and it's even worse to connect it up with the rubber band. There's a... Okay, maybe that's another interesting note. I designed those little hooks here, so a rubber band can go around here and hold the battery in place, but it's so fiddly to get it in, you can imagine. So for now I'm leaving out the rubber band and just trying to connect the battery directly and leave it just. Okay, now it is connected. Let's align it again
Hello.
nicely.
And
Okay,
it's 5 5:26 in the morning of December 25th, 2021.
So,
Here in the Schifferklasse
another moment of truth.
Landgeschlossen
dum,
3,
dum, dum,
Leipzig,
dum.
Germany.
Yay!
Anyway, the song will now slow down, come to a halt.
Rewind all the way to the beginning, and then we'll come.
Nice. Okay. So I think that's it for today with this little switching box. Overall, it's a simple piece, nothing special, but I really like to that I actually built a switch which switches the current by itself, and it was also the first time for me because obviously usually you would just buy a properly insulated switch and everything, but I really like to see how things work, and that's also what got me into engineering and inventing things, because yeah, I was always fascinated with machinery and understanding how it works, and sadly today's machines are very hard to understand, if not impossible, just from looking at it, because everything is hidden and electronic magic. And I mean, I studied electronic magic, it's not that I would dislike it in any way, but it's just nice to have something which has a very obvious way how it works, and it's always also really satisfying to close that little switch. So yeah, let's see what I can add to the socket in the future. Is there anything else? Yeah, maybe if for those who tuned in the meantime, let me say again, this little switching project was inspired by that piece of wall from the office set, and it has a tiny switch right here next to the door, and the human in the movie also goes and switches on the lights in his room. And I made this little switch here maybe 1.5 years ago, and then I got the idea, wouldn't it be cool if it actually switches the lights? Like if I'm going at an exhibition and showing the sets from the movie or something, then it would just be cool to switch on the lights with the actual light switch in the miniature. So yeah, maybe that's something we're going to see, let's see. But that's kind of the connection I drew here to the movie. Besides this, it's kind of a standalone project, and yeah, as I said, these miniature projects are usually the rewards for my biggest supporters on Patreon. So if you want to get a little something like this every other month, then yeah, check out my Patreon page. All supporters are very appreciated. Of course, it's really hard to keep something like this going, and it would be nice to invest a bit more into the workshop. So if you want to support my projects there in any way, it's very much appreciated. And thank you very much to all the patrons and other supporters who help me do this thing and finish my movie. Okay, so thanks a lot. I think that's it for today. Thank you very much for the nice chat, David and Manny. You are my two friends today for chatting. That was really nice. Thanks a lot. One last announcement at the end. For those of you who are in Germany, I will be present at a little steampunk convention near Koblenz next weekend. It's like, I say it in German real quickly, Kohle, Dampf und Eisenglanz in Sein. So if every one of my German viewers would like to meet me, see a couple of clips from my movie, and hear me talk a about my work, then yeah, you're welcome to join that event. It's a really nice place, like a really cool industrial, pre-industrial factory kind of, and an old building which is really epic, and yeah, very fitting for a steampunk convention. So that's about it. Thank you all very much. If you're interested in, whoops, the battery is falling out. If you're interested in miniatures like these, besides Patreon, you can also check out my webshop. These little boxes will turn up there in a couple of days, I think. And yeah, a last thank you to my music artists, which allowed me to play their music. They are Billy Rubin, Maurice Trench, Reptile Shoes, and Ariel, my friend. So if you like something of what you heard, make sure to check out their Bandcamp accounts. Okay, I will finish with a couple of beauty shots of that little box and then see you next month, hopefully. Bye bye!